Welcome to Head Heart Homefront, brought to you by the Barry Robinson Center, the country's leading behavioral health residential treatment center for military kids. I'm your host, Erin Lindstrom, and I'm so glad you're here. The Barry Robinson Center created this interview series to celebrate Military Family Month. We're bringing together mental health leaders to chat about building resiliency and healthy, happy families through the ups and downs of military life. We know military life can be challenging for our kids, and it can also present amazing opportunities. In these conversations, we talk about tips, tools, and techniques to navigate the highs and lows for both you and your children. The conversations have been incredible, and we are so excited to share this episode with you. Hey, welcome back to Head Heart Homefront. I'm Erin Lindstrom, and I'm here with Samantha Hagan Lingad, and I'm so excited for today's conversation. Before we hop into it, I want to share with you a little bit about Samantha. So she is the lead director of operations and maritime programs for United Through Reading, based in Virginia Beach, Virginia, or at least your offices, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay. As the lead director of operations, Samantha works with the operations team to coordinate national program campaigns, oversee volunteer recruitment, and establish, expand, and support United Through Reading programs throughout the United States military. She also works directly with the U.S. Navy and Coast Guard commands based from the eastern half of the U.S. to Rota, Spain, and everywhere in between. A graduate of George Mason University, she has spent her career in the nonprofit sector, working in the military community. She's also an active duty Navy spouse, and she currently resides in the lovely Virginia Beach. So Samantha, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm really excited to chat with you today.
Yeah, likewise. So I'm really excited to get to know about you and United Through Reading. And to kick us off, I'm wondering, can you tell us a little bit more about UTR?
Sure. United Through Reading, we are a 31-year-old military support nonprofit. We're very proud of that fact. There are amazing military nonprofits in the world, but we are one of the few that predate 9/11. And what we do is we keep military families connected through the bonding experience of reading aloud. We were founded all the way back in 1989 by a military spouse who was also an educator. And she realized when her husband came home from deployment that their little 5-year-old daughter didn't really know who he was. He was kind of a stranger in the home. And she was traumatized by this, like many military families before her. So she devised a way back in 1989 using the technology that she had on hand to keep other families connected. So what she did on the piers of San Diego was literally grab sailors and Marines as they were boarding ships to deploy, sat them down with a big old VHS camera, threw a book at them and was like, here, read to your kid. I'm going to make sure that they're able to follow along. So that was our founding, kind of a guerrilla founding back in 1989. And today, obviously, we have grown since then. We now work with all 5 branches of the military, including the Guard and Reserve. We have multiple ways that people can participate. So we have embedded story stations. We have about 200 what we call story stations around the world. Many of them are embedded with military commands. So as commands deploy or go through the deployment cycle, they have their own program. They can make recordings right in their own space. We provide them with books and recording equipment and the training to run the program. We also have location story stations, which are story stations that are on installations. They are in base libraries, at the base chapel, different places like that. And we have a few other options, but the one that I'm super excited about that I just, proselytize till the cows come home about is our new app. We have a United Through Reading app, and that means that the nearest story station is in your pocket. And
wow.
Yeah, and our app is available to any service member, any veteran, and any spouse, and it's free. And it is secure. So it's a really, really wonderful resource for anyone to stay connected with the child in their life.
Oh, I love that. I actually just got chills a few times as you were
speaking. Wonderful.
And I'm like, oh, what is that?
Chills.
Yeah, and kind of looking at my own brain and being like, what's going on here, Erin? Why is this emotionally affecting you? And I think having had or I still have, but watching my kids kind of go through deployment when they were really young with their dad, thinking about having this, like, is just so special and so smart.
Yeah, and reading together is something that's fundamental to so many families, and we want it to be fundamental to each and every family. And establishing a reading routine can be especially challenging for military families because maybe your service member is the reader in your household, and there can be times when that reader is gone and all your child wants is their special person at bedtime, sitting beside them in bed, snuggling up and reading their favorite story. So we can't provide that. Unfortunately, we're not into, we haven't.
Holograms coming soon.
Yeah, maybe in a few years, but we can provide the next best thing, which is a United Through Reading recording of that special person anytime that child needs it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So you just touched on one of the R's that I wanted to jump in with you. And that is, so United Through Reading provides routine, resilience, and readiness to the military child and their entire family.
Absolutely.
Can you hop in and share a little bit more about that with us?
Sure. We're in the middle of a campaign right now that we're calling Readiness 365. And that is READ in big capital letters. So it's really Readiness 365. But our firm belief is that creating a reading routine with United Through Reading makes the entire family more reading ready, makes the entire family more ready oriented, resilient, absolutely, and provides a touchstone for the military family so that not everything is thrown into upheaval every time their service member goes. And especially right now with COVID happening, we are in a situation where our service members might be gone for 2 weeks prior to when they even deploy. And they might be in a hotel room down the street, but we can't see them. So with United Through Reading, those service members can start their routines as soon as they need. They don't need to wait for deployment. They don't need to even wait for any sort of separation. They can download the app and start their reading routine immediately. And it gets the kids excited about it. Because we provide free books for the recordings, it gets books into their hands. And it just creates an environment where reading is not only a fun activity to do, but it is something that is reliable and repeatable and can be leaned upon at any time during a military family's life.
Wow. To me, it kind of like reframes reading in a certain way, like, because typically I think of it as like, oh yeah, I should read to my kids. Like, because like, obviously reading is good for you. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
However, like you're really putting it into a different like part of my brain where thinking about it in terms of like building routine and resiliency is like, oh, wow, there's even more here. And I love the idea of just almost be able to create rituals around something like this is important.
Absolutely. Yeah, we are all about, in fact, right now we have for the month of October, so it's almost over, but we have created an incentive to get people into their reading routines, and we're calling it Fall Into Your Reading Routine because we're clever like that. And that's what it's all about. It is about reading with your child every night, no matter where you are, even if you're not there, even if you're, romming at a hotel, even if you are halfway around the world and you are nowhere near a computer or a book, you can still be reading with your family because of United Through Reading.
Oh, I love that. So as a mom, like one of the things that pops up for me is like, sometimes my kids are like, yeah, no, thanks anyway, mom. Like I would rather play. I would rather watch something, like pretty much anything, like leave me alone. I'm wondering, do you have any tips or techniques for parents who kind of come up against that with their kids?
Absolutely. So we have so many things, and I would highly recommend people visit our website, which is unitedthroughreading.org, where we have those resources there to make reading together more fun. But some things that I have observed, if you have the app, it's really great to sit down with your child and start making those recordings with them. You may have noticed little kids today, they are already, I have a friend who has a 9-month-old who will just reach for my phone. She will climb across the table to get to my phone. And when she gets to my phone, what does she want to see? Pictures of herself. So, and fortunately I have a million because we're potting together. So, I take pictures of her for fun, but that's what she wants to see. And so kids who are being read to via our app love to see themselves on the app. So you can make it fun, especially this time of year. There's probably spare costume parts lying around the house. You can make little hats out of paper. You can do fun things like that, dress up like their favorite character or reenact some scene from their favorite book. Use the app so that they're participating. And that way they're kind of used to seeing what's going on there. And it fills that, you mentioned they want to watch something instead. Well, this is perfect because they are watching something educational. They are watching something that's allowing them to bond with their special person. And we live in an age when so many parents are trying to limit kids' screen times for good reason. But this is really the exception. This is something that it's educational screen time. It's beneficial screen time. And it's building those family connections through screen time, which is not something we necessarily think about. But when you do sit down and think about it, it's true, because it's not, they're not watching Daniel Tiger, they're watching their loved one or they're watching themselves participate in something like that.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I love the idea of really making this an experience for them, like costumes and, without being, I'm personally not a Pinterest mom. However, we definitely have some headbands and like an Elsa dress on the table next.
Definitely.
I love that idea because it really does make it special for them too. And then they're part of a production and it almost becomes like a creative thing, not just reading a book, but like really creating something.
Absolutely. And it's fun and it's low stress. It's not something that's an obligation. All right, I got to go sit down with mom.
Right.
It's an adventure and it's what reading is supposed to be. It's an escape and it's a time to bond.
Oh, I love that. And your energy around this is just like palpable. And so thank you for that. I'm wondering, like, would you be open to sharing a little bit with us about like your personal journey and how you came to be doing this work with United Through Reading?
Sure. So I am a military spouse, as you mentioned, but I'm also a military child. I grew up in a dual military household. Both my parents were in the Navy, and then I married a sailor, which I swore I'd never do, but I did.
I've heard that before.
I know. This one, he tricked me because he joined after we were already in the Navy.
Oh,
I was duped. I was totally duped. But yes, I grew up in a military family. I have two younger sisters, and we lived everywhere. We never really put down roots as a child. This has always been my lifestyle. I don't have children myself, but I relate on a very deep level with the military kids that we work with. And I almost see myself as kind of the military kids' voice within our organization, because we do have other staff members, obviously, who are military spouses, and some of whom actually did grow up in the military as well. So, and they're raising their own kids in the military as well. So that we have a great mix of experiences. But growing up far away from my extended family, I had my two little sisters who were years younger than me. So there were often times where I was the new kid. I didn't really have friends. I have always kind of felt, obviously I'm part of the military family, but I've always kind of felt the desire to do something for those military kids who today are where I was when I was a kid. So it's something that's very near and dear to my heart. My husband also grew up in the military.
Wow.
In the military. I know we have it coming from and he also came from a dual military family, which back then was very uncommon. Not as many, couples were serving at the same time, but both sets of our parents were. So we are deeply enmeshed in the military culture. And I just feel like it's just a wonderful, you're probably picking up on my energy because I feel this. This is my family that I'm serving in a lot of very important ways. And reading together is, it's one of those things my dad always did with myself and my sisters. And it's one of my fondest memories of childhood is sitting down on the couch and my dad reading the classics to us. He read Little Women and Huck Finn and all those books. And my dad is he's a very sweet but stoic man. So he's one of those, he's a military guy, old school military guy. That's when I felt that connection. And that's when I felt I was a priority to him. Not that I didn't feel it all the time, but that was the moment, that was the touchstone for me that I was loved and protected, and this man was my world. And so I just want to be able to provide that to other military kids who are growing up in that situation now. And fortunately, we are in a wonderful position. Technology is both a blessing and a curse, of course, but we're in a wonderful position here in the 21st century where it's literally on your phone. Like, you can pick up your phone and you can connect with someone. And we have FaceTime, we have messaging, we have all these wonderful things. But there is something special about the video of someone reading to you. It's repeatable, it's reliable, it's always there, just like, your parent should be and wants to be. So that's kind of my journey. When I did graduate college, I made the decision that I wanted to work in the nonprofit sector, and I've been in the military nonprofit sector now for almost the entirety of my career, which has been about, 10-ish or more years. I don't know. I haven't done the math, but it's where I'm home. It's where my family is, quote unquote, and literally.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how I came to it.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us about United through Reading and yourself, and just sharing your energy and excitement about this. I think this is a really, really, really cool tool, especially just as we're talking about resiliency, and the story you just shared about your dad and really feeling the connection in that time. I think that's so sacred. And the fact that there's a way to do that, even with distance and separation, is so beautiful. So thank you so much for being here, and thank you for sharing.
Oh, thank you. And I did want to say one last thing.
Sure.
Like I said, myself and my husband, we don't have children, but if there is anyone listening or watching who is part of a military family but doesn't have kids of their own, we have our goddaughter lives in Arizona. She's also a military brat. Our nephew and godson lives in Northern Virginia, also a military brat. And we use this program to connect with them as well. So it is, you might be a parent, but maybe you have someone in your life who isn't a parent, but is in the military. Maybe they want to connect with your kids. And this is a really great opportunity for them to do that as well.
Oh, brilliant. I love it.
And so grandparents, especially in the time of COVID, when you can't be
Absolutely.
together.
Yeah, I think we're all hungry for connection right now. So I love the idea of looking around and seeing who might be floating a little bit, and where can we kind of build that? What a beautiful opportunity.
Absolutely. Yep. Nothing connects like connections. That's for sure.
Beautiful. All right. Thank you so much, Samantha.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Head, Heart, Homefront, a production from the Barry Robinson Center, the country's leading behavioral health residential treatment center for military kids. Many times, kids with behavioral and mental health issues don't improve with typical treatment options in their community. Families may need to consider long-term residential care, and this is where the Barry Robinson Center excels. They're a mission-focused nonprofit organization based in Virginia. Their residential center is the only one in the country that works exclusively with military kids. They understand the military community, as many of their employees are military connected. Their high-quality treatment includes a wide range of services to help improve the lives of children. If your child needs additional support, check out barryrobinson.org. Navigating mental health can be challenging, and we want you to know that you do not have to do it alone. Thank you so much for listening to Head, Heart, Homefront. If you've enjoyed this episode, please let us know with a 5-star review if you're listening to the podcast, or a like, comment, or share if you're listening on Facebook or YouTube. Until next time, be well.